Every single piece of content that I ever create is meant to help you in your life, in your story, in your existence in some way. Thank you for taking the Ranveer Show to 100 episodes. This particular podcast began because when I look back at my journey, I wanted to shut down this channel and I just wanted to figure an easier way to make content. So I thought all these beautiful conversations that were happening in my business career could be recorded and turned into content. And occasionally we'd put up some solo episodes just like this one. Solo episodes of the Ranveer Show always tend to be personal, always tend to be full of stories, always tend to be full of romance in many ways. Romance doesn't just happen between two human beings. It's not just about a boy and a girl. This is a concept I'm going to explain using the last couple of years of my life, a couple of years of being relatively single, going within myself, learning more about myself, my true nature, the power of the love in my heart, above all, the power of manifestation. It's a sentence we hear a lot. Here's my story when it comes to the power of manifestation. I have used the power of manifestation in my career to build a lot. This podcast, this YouTube channel, these YouTube channels, these businesses around me, Monk Entertainment, Big Brain Company, BeerBiceps Media, the other one that's coming up, that's possibly my career-defining business. All of it began with visualization and using the power of manifestation to begin that journey. Let's take you back to my beginnings. They say that a soul's journey on this planet, in every new life, begins with circumstances. Being born in a particular family, therefore having to go through particular experiences, therefore having to develop a particular personality. It begins with the family you're born into. Both my parents are extremely spiritual people. Different schools of spiritual thought, and that's honestly what I feel is the superpower of my family. Most specifically, my sister and myself. We're also spiritual. And I feel like we've gained from the best of both worlds. Let's talk about my mom's spiritual side a little bit more. So my mom's family is from Gujarat. And if you guys know anything about Gujarat, you'd know that there's a lot of spiritualism generally in that part of the country. People are extremely God-fearing. People are good in their heart. They have a sense of community. Now, in the long-term story of Gujarat, there's been many of these little sects of spirituality, what they call line of gurus. And these line of gurus obviously have their section of followers. Now, when we talk about gurus, most people think, oh God, man, oh my God, that's such a negative term. These photos placed behind me or the podcasts I have recorded in my room. I had a photo on my desk, which is of one of those gurus from the sect that my mom's family follows. That guru's name was Bapuji. Please don't hold prejudices when you're listening to this podcast. Just listen to my experience of it. Not all God men are the way the media portrays God men to be. You can't generalize. There's good ones and there's bad ones. This particular God man or guru was what I call my first guru in life. The word guru literally translates to the person who brings you closer to the light. That's what Bapuji was for me. I had a dark, angsty, angry childhood. I used to get in fights. I was very naughty. I didn't want to study. Lots of temper issues. Now, because my mom's family followed Bapuji, I'd actually go to my mom's ancestral home and spend time with him when he was visiting Bombay. I experienced a very early form of meditation back then with him. Every time I'd enter the room that he was sitting in, I'd feel a lot of peace. And somewhere in my heart, I felt, just like in the X-Men, you know, when someone wants to talk to Dr. X, Dr. Xavier, they talk through their mind. I used to feel like I used to talk through my mind with Bapuji. Something so crazy that my 14-year-old head, my 13-year-old head, my 8-year-old head couldn't believe was true. I'll tell you why I felt like this. Because often after meditating, at the end of my meditation, my mom would say, okay, now ask him what you want. And I'd think about it in my head. Okay, I want this. I want that. And depending on what I wished for, he'd look back at me and give me a smile. And I felt like his smile contained a lot more information than just happiness. I felt like he was saying more through his smile. I specifically remember this one time where I'd done really badly in my exams and my mom had taken me to meet him. She made me meditate. And for some reason, after that meditation session, in my heart, I wanted to look up at him. And I didn't want to ask him for better marks in my exam. I asked him for one thing. In my mind, I said, I know you can't give me better marks. That's not in your hands. But you can give me the ability to work hard. The moment I finished saying that sentence in my head, his eyes opened. He looked at me. He smiled. And in his smile, I felt that he was saying, yes, that's what I want you to ask. I wanted you to ask me this. That's what you should be wishing for, the ability to work hard. Later on in life, I studied about Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee had this amazing quote that I actually thought of getting tattooed on my body at one point of time. The quote is this: ask not for an easy life, ask for the strength to endure a difficult one. That's the definition of prayer for me. You don't ask for specifics. You ask for the ability to endure whatever's thrown your way and trust your abilities enough to achieve those specifics yourself with or without prayer. But with knowing that God or the universe, some higher power is looking after you. Just yesterday, we recorded a detailed podcast with Luke Coutinho, and he spoke about a concept called providence. Providence is something you only understand after having achieved something in your career. It could be some financial goals. It could be some career goals. Providence basically means knowing that there's a higher power looking after you at every stage of your career and at every stage of life. That's what I felt throughout my life. I've lived my life with a sense of providence. And only after speaking to Luke did I get to know about that word. Then I spoke to my teams. I spoke to Sanchit from my BeerBiceps team. And I said that, isn't it weird that I always wanted someone like you in my team, but you only came into my life like a year ago? If you had come into my life earlier, my life would have been way easier. But I probably wasn't prepared enough as a leader to give you the right kind of tasks or to mentor you correctly. And he said that, yeah, that's your version of providence. You know what my version of providence is? I never even really watched BeerBiceps. I knew you existed. And I don't know why, but I only felt like applying to your company. And then magic happened. He's heading content at BeerBiceps today. In many ways, he's my vice captain on BeerBiceps. In many ways, Viraj is my vice captain in the brand world, in Monk Entertainment. Jhalak is my vice captain in the startup world. Manish is my vice captain, whatever I want to do next. Satyam, who's sitting on recording this, is my vice captain on Instagram Reels. And all these people have entered my life very randomly. If I scan all those moments and I ask myself, how did all these people accumulate around me? It's very random, and there is providence at play. And all of them will agree when I say that there was providence at play in their life as well. That's the power of manifestation. Let's go back to being 14 years old. I remember really starting to study after that. Maybe it was all psychological. Maybe Bapuji was just a good psychologist who knew what I was thinking and he knew what to do. He knew how to react. Or maybe there's a deeper layer of the human experience that we haven't understood yet, that science hasn't understood yet. And I'd like to believe the latter because I've constantly experienced miracles in my life and I've constantly felt the presence of God. At this stage of my life, this is not something I've revealed on the podcast. I adore God in the same way that you'd adore someone who's in a relationship with you. This concept is spoken about in detail in Virat Kohli and Steve Jobs' all-time favorite book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. This concept is called divine love. This concept makes you feel whole even when you're single. It fills up that void of being single in many ways. It's not a concept that everyone understands, because not everyone understands the concept of God. People hear about God and they think, oh my God, that's such an old school concept. If I believe in God, does that mean I believe in religion? If I believe in religion, does that mean that I believe in all the negative aspects of religion? No. If you believe in God and you choose to call it a higher power, the universe, a higher energy, energies, we're all talking about the same concept. I personally call it God. And when it comes to God, the autobiography has this beautiful teaching. The autobiography of a yogi says that every human being defines God in a particular image. For some people, it's just a ball of light. For some people, that image is nothingness. It's the universe. It's the everything and the nothing. For some people, it's the divine feminine, Durga Mata, Lakshmi Ma, Saraswati Ma. For some people, it's the divine masculine, Shankar Bhagwan, Hanumanji. For some people, it's Jesus Christ. For some people, it's the guru who they worship. Of course, there's bad gurus out there. We constantly hear about it. There's a lot of spiritually enhanced, spiritually evolved humans called gurus who have accumulated enough spiritual power to be able to guide people who are at maybe a slightly lower level of spiritual awakening. That's what the world of spirituality is. It is this parallel ladder that everyone's climbing on. So there's the ladder that we know of, the materialistic ladder, the career ladder, the fame and money ladder, the power ladder. All that's one big ladder. And there's a parallel one which is beyond human existence, which goes beyond this one life of yours. A very close friend of mine, Radhika Madan, is someone who also has been very inspired by the autobiography of a yogi. And she's also been practicing deep meditations. She said that earlier in life, she'd always question why some people are born into privilege and why some people are born into difficulties. But the moment you understand the concept of karma, you understand the concept of rebirth, which I truly, truly believe in. I do not believe that you only live once. The whole world is starting to believe in this concept of karma and rebirth. And for the people who say that, how can you prove that it exists? My question to you is, how can you prove that it doesn't exist? None of us can prove anything. What we can do is feel our own experiences, come to conclusions because of our own experiences, or turn towards wisdom. There must be some truth in that concept, which has caused so many books to be written on that concept, which has caused so many evolved people to turn to spirituality, so many evolved people to talk about karma so often. There has to be some truth. And if you're going to switch off that possibility completely, you're limiting your own growth. You have to be open. That's the basis of spiritual growth. Be open and curious. Don't come to conclusions. Don't be stiff in the head. After I graduated from school, I entered a dark phase of my life in college. Didn't enjoy where I was. Became angry. Got into alcohol. Got into marijuana. Just became a very tight-knit person in the head. I was angsty. But in that phase, what also started happening to me was that I suddenly started getting a lot of dreams about God, my own versions of God. In my childhood, I chanted the Hanuman Chalisa a lot. So that's probably the image of God that my subconscious mind associates with God. I started getting Hanumanji in my dreams. I started getting Shiv Bhagwan in my dreams. I started getting Bapuji in my dreams again. And he had passed away by this point. He had left that body that he was occupying at that point, but he had not passed away. He was still in this planet probably. I still believe he's still in this planet. I remember this one time specifically where I was angsty, but I was out to prove that I wanted to do something with my life. That's also why I started powerlifting in life. That's why I started going to the gym that regularly. So this big fitness company had come to my college for the first time. And my college wasn't one of those colleges which encouraged internships. Very random rule, but that's how it was. So out of the 110, 120 kids that had applied for that internship, I was one of 3 kids that got selected. And my CGPA, my aggregate was really low. So it was kind of a little bright spot in the middle of a lot of darkness during my college years. Also keep in mind, I was really buff. I was really well built. So a lot of the college professors assume that because I was well built, I was also probably a doofus. I was dumb. I don't know what the correlation is, but that's how a lot of people assume. They also assume that if you're marginally well dressed and if you're marginally well built, you're probably more inclined towards material pleasures like attracting girls and showing off. But I really wasn't. I was in engineering college to learn. At least that's why I joined engineering college. But by the third year, I was angsty, full of rage. I was looking forward to that bright spot, which happened to be that fitness internship. I went to my college placement professor to lock the internship because this internship offer had come through the college. So that's just your standard procedure. I went to him and he had a reputation of being an angry dude. He was one of those guys who kind of removed all his life's frustrations on students. So I went into his room. I remember I was wearing this blue polo t-shirt, which was obviously tight on the sleeves. I had massive arms back then. And I said, "Sir, I've got this internship. What do I do next? How do I take it forward?" He stopped what he was doing. He looked at me and he said, You don't look like you study. What's your aggregate?" There was lots of these other nerdy kids around him who had come for their own business, their own job applications or whatever. That's the thing about engineering college. There's a lot of status games within students. If a teacher's about to attack a particular student using a status game, saying, "Oh, you're too dumb for this college, your marks are bad," a lot of the other students kind of pile up on that student. They also start attacking the student in order to make themselves feel more secure. So the moment he asked me, you don't look like you studied. You don't look like you're intelligent. Tell me your aggregate." Those other students started grinning at each other. They started giggling, looking at him, waiting for him to pounce on me. And in my head, I'm full of rage. I'm just like, yeah, I've gone through this a lot in this engineering college. So you're going to insult me right now. And then he said, "तू जाके जिम कर, जॉब मत कर, जॉब वैसे भी मिलेगा नहीं लाइफ में." Which translates to, please go back to the gym. That's where you belong. You don't belong in the professional world. In front of all these other students who started giggling, laughing, added to the insult, my brain and ears just switched off by that point. But in my head, I said, "I'll show you one day. Just so you know, in the coming year, we're going to the same engineering college, but this time to recruit students." Just saying. Sorry, that was a casual flex, but just want to give you hit-taking students some perspective in life. If someone calls you a failure, hold up. That's not the definition of your head. That's not the definition of your life. Anyway, coming back to that moment. That time there was no The Ranveer Show solo podcast, right? So I didn't have a reference point. This was that one bright moment in my college life where I felt like, yeah, I finally got something going for me. 3 out of 120 students being selected is not a fucking joke. And I'm one of those 3. I felt valuable again in college because most of my time in college had spent being insulted by teachers, and it had really dented my self-confidence. It had dented my sense of optimism. It had dented my faith in God also. God was probably trying to reinvigorate that faith by visiting me in my dreams through different images of Hanumanji or Shivji or Bapuji. This particular day, I just felt numbed out, man. I remember going in the train with my best friend, Chintan Butch, at that point of time, and I told him that, "Yo, I don't know why I took up engineering college. It's the beginning of our 4th year, and I've just had a terrible time." He just told me, "Bro, hang in there, man. Just put up with it for like another year." I was numbed out. I went into my own pain. I was going through a lot back then, man. There was also a lot of alcohol and drugs speaking through me. A lot of pain kind of just kept inside me. This was before I took up ayahuasca or meditation or became peaceful in life. So there was a lot of pain inside me. I'd cry a lot, man, in that phase. But on that day, I knew I was going to go home and cry a lot. But I was just like, "Fuck it. I'm a tough powerlifter. I'm just going to walk." Again, no the Ranveer Show to tell you, hey man, if you're a guy, it's okay for you to cry. So I'm holding on to all that angst. I'm holding on to all that pain. I'm walking out of the railway station near my house. Again, just outside the railway station, near the entrance, I just felt extremely dizzy. I felt dizzy, and I also felt a very strange sense of deja vu. The word deja vu is familiar to a lot of people. I once read that deja vu are your memories from the future. Trippy statement, right? So let me explain what happened. So I felt this strange sense of deja vu and I felt my head spinning. And I went home and I cried and I went to sleep. I cried myself to sleep. I entered a really deep state of sleep where I felt like I was reliving that moment of me walking out of that railway station. And I felt Bapuji walking next to me. I felt his energy walking next to me. And I remember hearing a voice in my head going, you're doubting your path in life way too much. This is the path you were meant to walk on. If someone's making fun of your love for fitness today, they're going to laugh at their own words tomorrow. And that was the end of the dream. What the happened at BeerBiceps? We became the world's first India-specific fitness channel. We began our journey in fitness. Fitness is such a core part of my brand today. If I'd listened to that professor's insult and left that fitness journey, this wouldn't be possible. These cameras. The first camera we ever bought with BeerBiceps money was the money I earned by being a fitness trainer, by using those same skills that came out of my love for fitness. If your heart is truly beating on a particular path, you need to know that your life has placed you there with a sense of providence. Life has provided the providence for you. You need to ask yourself, where am I the happiest? Who are the people I'm the happiest around? What are the activities that I do that can make me the happiest? That's the path you've got to follow. I enjoy the out of podcasts. I love podcasts. I love creating content like this. I love creating content that is this rich. It's the greatest joy of my life. Not the money, not the fame, not the attention, not the power, not the startups. The joy of creating content this deep. Whether it's watched or not, I know I've done my job. I know I've done my research. I know I've spoken to some of the world's smartest people, taken out the knowledge and put it out for the world. I've done my duty. But it began with a sense of providence. I remember waking up after that dream with a sense of, okay, Bapuji energy is back in my life. Providence is now a thing for me. I didn't know the meaning of the word providence till like yesterday when we recorded with Luke. But I felt the emotion of what providence stands for. I felt taken care of. I went to the gym. I worked out. I felt joyous. I came out. I continued my journey. Exactly a year after this incident, I was prepping myself to work in a startup, which eventually led to the formation of BeerBiceps. Your life, if you are vibing with your work, is leading you to where you're meant to be, man. It's leading you to where you're meant to be. Do not doubt the providence in your life as long as you are working hard and you're being 100% honest with your work. Zakir Khan, my dear big brother in the world of media, told me this thing that always stayed with me. I remember I was going through a phase of self-doubt and I called him maybe a couple of years ago, 1.5 years back. I think it was during the lockdown, I can't remember. But I had this conversation with him. I said that, bro, I'm just feeling a strong sense of self-doubt. He said, you're a creative professional. All of us go through it. But please understand, Ranveer, one thing I know about you, just like me, is that you're a performer. You're not just a doer. If a job is given to you, you'll do it to the best of your abilities, and that's all that matters. If you keep doing that, if you do a job to the best of your abilities, life will carry you through. That could be the smallest job in the world, that could be the biggest job in the world. That's what I look for in all my potential team members. We have a couple of new members lately, and I'm easily able to tell which one is going to be a long-term fit and which one is not. The one that's distracted and constantly looking for conversations to escape his work, he's not a long-term fit. The one who'll hold these colorful lights in his hand outside a shoot setup just to give that shoot light, he's sitting behind the camera, that dude's a long-term fit. Because he does the job of holding the light with the same intensity that he'll do a job of creating an Instagram reel with, a detailed video edit with. Irrespective of the job you're given, you have to give it your 500%. Irrespective of the job you've given, you have to give it your 500%. Your 500% every time. That's when providence really comes into play. This is one of the stories where I felt a presence of God in my dreams. There are other stories. I've spoken about it in other solo podcasts. Dreams play a big role in my life even today. They guide me. What plays an even bigger role is meditation. Long-term meditation makes you more sensitive towards prayer. I feel like your prayers work way stronger when you perform them after you've meditated, because they say that God visits the minds that are the calmest. God loves a calm temple. But to get that calm, you've got to meditate daily. And you know what? After BeerBiceps began, my spiritual journey also began, man. I'm not going to speak about it in this podcast. That's a whole other podcast. Getting into the world of Reiki, getting into the world of transcendental meditation, studying Osho, studying Isha Foundation, studying YSS, settling at YSS for a particular reason. That's a whole other story. That's the kind of technical skill set required to get more providence in your life. But there's always a technical skill set and a soft skill set. A certain sense of faith in the world, a certain sense of faith in your journey, in your own abilities, in your sense of positivity, a certain faith in your own optimism, a certain faith in providence. You've got to believe that the things that are going on in your life are going your way for a reason. You've got to believe that the worst moments of your life are happening because providence is trying to get you to where you're meant to be. If those bad things kept staying in your life, if those bad addictions kept staying in your life, if those bad habits kept staying in your life, if those bad energies kept staying in your life, you would not get to where providence wants to take you. You would not get to where God wants to take you. I've had so many spiritual experiences and miracles that I can make maybe like at least 10 to 15 more podcasts on just my experiences with God. But this one is about the power of manifestation. People talk about it. People talk about visualizing their goals. People talk about visualizing when it comes to where they wish to be in life. I've interacted with Sadhguru back in 2018, and the one thing he told me is that do not visualize about specifics. If you're thinking today that, 10 years from now, I want a massive Lamborghini, I want a Ferrari. For all you know, 10 years from now, land-based vehicles won't be a thing. Maybe Lamborghini and Ferrari won't even be around. But there will be Teslas that can fly. And when you're sitting in that Tesla that can fly, you're like, oh, why did I even wish for that land-born Lamborghini? I didn't know how the world is turning out. I didn't know how technology is turning out. Do not visualize about specifics. Visualize about feelings. What am I trying to do through all this? It's not just numbers. It's not just, let's make Ranveer more famous, more rich, and more powerful. The intention behind this game that I'm playing with my life, these startups that I'm building, is I want more power so that I can help those who need my power to help them. Providence helped me. No one helped me when I started. No one backed me when I started. I'm not going to let a young kid, a guy, a girl, whatever that kid is, I'm not going to let that kid feel like he or she or they are alone. I'm there for that kid. That's what I'm trying to do through my content. That's why God keeps helping me. That's why Providence keeps helping me. And I know that. The moment I feel low in life, the next day I have a podcast which lifts me up and gives me the answers that I need to hear. The next day, an old friend of mine messages me saying, you know what, let me connect you to so-and-so. And that so-and-so person ends up helping me in a problem that I've been stuck on for a while, that I've been praying to God for a solution. God has answered my prayers so many times in my life that with every passing day, I fall deeper in love with God, and I call that love divine love. You don't have to fall in love with God, you have to fall in love with your own sense of providence. I call my sense of providence God. That's divine love for me. That's why I have a Philippians 4:13 tattooed on my arms. That's why I've got all my tattoos. They all have God as an underlying theme. This was episode number 100. I didn't give you a CTA, I just spoke from my heart. But I'm sure within the realms of this particular episode, you would have found your CTA. If I had to give you a CTA for this particular one, all I'd say is have faith, stay optimistic, have a sense of self-belief, back yourself, have habits in your life that allow you to work as hard as you possibly can, and have a sense of humility that asks for the ability to endure difficulties rather than asking for big houses, big cars, power, fame, and money. God bless you. May all the providence in the world be with you. You're a soldier and you're going to achieve every single thing that you wish to achieve. I love you, and I hope that these videos provide some sense of providence within your existence. Lots of love. Thank you for supporting the Ranveer Show.